had a website, but it was almost like a vanity project back then. Now it is like an entrance fee to have a business.
Good. Hey, I wanted to let you know that the Google guarantee, the Google ads, man, I'm getting 12 to 16 calls a week.
My goal is at least do 10 to 15 more years, grow it up, sell it for 40, 50 million, maybe more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Titan Talks. My name is Jonathan Stern. I'm an engineer at Topline Pro, but once a week, I have the honor of sitting down with successful home service entrepreneurs to discuss their journeys to success. Today is September 20th, 2023, and my guest is Rick Doria of Centex Pressure Washing, a hood cleaning and pressure washing service in San Marcos, Texas. Rick has more than 30 years of experience in the industry, and we're thrilled to have you here today to discuss the business. Rick, thanks so much for coming on, and welcome to Titan Talks.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate that. Hey, I'm not going to interrupt you, but it's Doria. Just so we got the last name right. It's
Doria. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, it's cool, man.
Nick told me Dora. We're going to yell at him afterwards. Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm so sorry, Rick. Do you want to do another intro? We could do that.
No, let's keep this, man. I'm good. It's fun.
Let's keep it. All right. To get started, Mr. Doria, could you please tell us how you got started in pressure washing, hood cleaning, kitchen cleaning? Tell us about your origin story.
Yeah, man. Well, it started in 2003. Basically, I was just needing a job. I was going to college, and I was getting my engineering degree, and I was working for this company called Centex Pressure Washing. And I was doing really good, but my grades started basically just falling. And I was going to school in the morning and working at night. And as you know, man, if you're really burning the candlestick at both ends, and I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And it was really just hindering my education. And so I actually quit, and I actually did it for 3 years because my school was off and on. But I worked as a pressure washer, vent hood tech, and just kind of worked my way up with the previous owner, Michael Tessero. And he taught me a lot in those 3 years. And I quit, and I went off to work for a call center job with a little company at the time called Telenetwork, now known as One Support. And I did that for about 18 years.
Wow.
And in between those 18 years, I mean, I worked my way up all the way up to operations manager. But in those 18 years, I worked part-time for power washing, so I was still in the know. I still kept my hands wet and my feet dirty, just from all the grease. And then, I found my relationship with Christ a couple years ago. And about that time, I really wanted to do something different, with my life. I wanted to do something that I could give back to my community. I wanted to just help other people. And part of that was I wanted to be a cop. Believe it or not, I wanted to be a resource cop for at a high school, just to help teenagers, right? Kind of like my kids, and help them through the process, let them know, like, hey, I've made those decisions that you're about to make. Don't do it. Just to be there for them, just a voice, right? Or an ear. Well, at the time, my wife and I were praying for wherever he wanted me to be. And I get a phone call from Mike's wife, Pat, and she's like, hey, Mike's looking to retire, and we want to know if you want to buy the business. And I said, well, this is great. I just prayed for it, but I'm sorry, but I don't really have the funds. And she's like, don't worry about that. We'll take care of it, and we'll figure it out. Well, I put my faith in God, and a year later, I completely bought the business and turned it into 50% profit from the previous year to this year. So that's a quick little story, I guess, and in a nutshell, kind of how it all happened. A lot more details, but that's pretty much what the story, how it went.
Unbelievable story. Thank you for sharing all that, Rick.
Yeah.
When you were working part-time for Centex, how many hours a week was that, would you say?
Oh man, we were probably doing, it could be, I was either doing from 5 to 10, just about. And I actually went to school to actually be certified as a technician and be under the NFPA 96, just to be certified. And in the business, you're a step above a lot of those other companies that aren't certified. And part of Syntex is that anytime that we send somebody out there, they have to be certified. Just because it's just, you want someone that understands the safety, right? The protection, it's fire protection. So we want to make sure that somebody out there understands the do's and the don'ts, and for the customer, right? We want to be preventative, and we want to protect them as well.
And I know you said, going all the way back to the beginning of that story, that when you started, you worked for Centex. Is this the very same company that you're owning now that you worked for at the beginning of your career?
That is.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
Centex has been around, what, 30, 40 years now? Is that right?
30, he started it in 87. So yeah, just yeah, he started it a long time ago. And his little story, he used to do construction, and he did that for a long time. He was a teacher he was a teacher for art in a high school, I believe in Lockhart. And then
Good
from there,
barbecue in Lockhart, right?
oh man, it's the best. But I'm gonna tell you, okay, we're gonna change subject here about barbecue. I love barbecue, man. And one of the best
from
places.
Dallas. I'm from Dallas originally, so I know the. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, man, I was gonna tell you. So Smitty's, I feel personally,
Oh.
is the best. People will bark at this, but there's like 5 different places in Lockhart you can get barbecue from, right? And I personally love Smitty's. But ultimately, if you're from Dallas, have you heard of Luling?
I've not. No.
Okay, in Luling, there's a place called City Market. And man, if you're ever in town, go to Luling. It's probably like 30 minutes, maybe 15, 20 minutes from Lockhart. Preferred, man. I mean, they have the Big Red, they have the brisket. You walk in to this little room and you still smell like it, man. When you walk out, like you go to your car, you're still going to smell like it. So anyways, sorry, man, I got off track when you said barbecue.
No, you said Lockhart. I couldn't help it. But
yeah,
barbecue. Yeah.
So he was an art teacher there, and he did some construction work, and he's like, look, I want to do something on my own. I want to figure something out and just do the business. And he's like, let me get into power washing. There wasn't too much in the town of San Marcos. And he started doing houses and sidewalks, and then got into doing vent hoods, which is a really interesting niche in itself, because there's not too many of us out there. It's greasy, and a lot of people don't like dirty jobs.
I would
go
love
ahead.
to hear, I mean, you've been in it for decades now, again, off and on in the middle, right? Would love to hear about the project you're most proud of.
Oh, so the project that I'm most proud of, from where the company was and where it is now, what the part-time work taught me, because at my other full-time job were people relations, right?
Sure.
So my project, what I have to say, is keeping people, right? Building that, building just a network of people, building young people that in the business. I didn't want our turnover to be every other week a new person, right? I wanted to build a culture. I wanted to build a brand, which the brand was there, but I wanted to make it fun, right? I wanted to make it entertaining. I wanted to put videos out. I wanted to do podcasts like Michael Tessero. He is, like, we consider him the OG of all this. He actually is at the university that they teach at, which is powerwash.com, university.com. He actually teaches it up in Dallas. And that's part of the certification. And so he knows all the ins and outs. And so I wanted to build on that and make it fun and not have so much turnover. So my project was, I want to keep people. I want to keep people entertained. I wanted to make it fun. I want to build a culture where it's not just, oh, you do that greasy job, you know? And so I feel like I've done that. I got a good crew, and when your crew enjoys coming to work to do a dirty job, you would ought to feel that that's pretty good. They like coming to work and hanging out, right? It's not a job per se all the time. It's like, hey man, I get to hang out with my buds, right? I would say that would be my project if that's what you were referring to.
Yeah, no, that's great, Rick. Why is it the greasiest job imaginable? It isn't fun all the time, and yet they enjoy coming to work. What is it about the work? What is it about the atmosphere that you've created that gets them excited?
I think it's the first word that comes to mind is respect, right? Um, I I give them as much as respect as they give me. And one of the biggest things that I tell them is that I'm not your boss. You're my boss, right? I work for you. And in terms of whatever you need to do the job better, I'm going to go do it for you. Because at the end of the day, they're out there on the ground, right?
Yep.
And if whatever I can do on the back end to help them, then I'm going to do it. And that's something that I learned in operations is people. You have to be a people person. Not everybody is the same. Not everybody learns the same. And you have to be able to adapt to each individual person learning abilities and be able to transfer that data over so that they understand it better. And that's just something that I've learned over the years, and I've implemented it into the business now. And I can say, I mean, I've kept these guys now for close to 6 months, and I'll be honest, that's in our business, that is pretty good. Because a lot of people will say, hey man, I can get the same amount flipping burgers, right? I mean, right now you're getting almost $20 an hour to flip burgers, or you want to go get greasy, right? So I think it's all about culture. It's all about, respecting your people. And something that I've learned is not to say your people. I consider the guys that work with me my coworkers, right? Because I don't own them, they don't own me. We're all on the same page. I get dirty out there with them, so I think just being there with them, is part of that culture.
Let's talk quickly about the profits that you mentioned at the end of your story. Profit up 50% in 1 year. Is that right, Rick?
Yeah, it is. That's what we're projected to right now. Yes, sir.
Awesome. What's one thing you did to sort of transform the business aspect? I don't know that you were in, I don't know that when you took over, it was particularly hard times, but you've certainly transformed the business for the better. How'd you do that?
I believe what I did was, in as cliche or simple as it sound, it was just organizational, right? A lot of the old school writing stuff down on a piece of paper transferred to computer. And I think that transition kind of helped speed a lot of different processes.
Yep.
And what I brought into with a lot of the new clients that I brought in, it was people relations. I'm not into having a contract. I'm not into just money. I want a partnership, right? Just with Top Line Pro. That's what I want. I want to be able to call Nick and be like, hey, Nick, this is the problem. Can you fix it? Yeah, no problem. I'll take care of it. That's what I want, right? And that's what I want the customers to understand is, hey, if you have an issue, you can call me, or if we can break bread together, whatever it is. I just want that partnership. I want that relationship. That's what I want from a business. And honestly, with Top Line Pro, that when I first met Nick, that's exactly what I got. I felt that comfortness, right? I could just go and hang out. We can share a beer and just talk shop and have fun. And that to me is worth more than money, right? We can build that relationship. Everything else will build around itself.
How many employees do you have today?
11.
Okay. And all full-time or some part-time sprinkled through?
So we have 4 we have four, actually, I'm sorry, five full time, and the rest are part time.
Great. And in terms of jobs on the schedule, are you packed for a few weeks or months, or how does that work with the calendar?
Man, I am packed, and
Wow.
it's a good problem.
Oh yeah.
It's a great problem, and I was talking to my wife the other day. I was like, I might have to hire another person just to do the scheduling, just because at times as business owners we wear a bunch of hats, and that's not always good, right? Because we're spreading ourselves thin, and so I was like, I'm getting to the point where I don't have that luxury of time to scheduling. So yeah, we're pretty jam packed, especially around August and every 3 months after that, because we have a lot of universities
Yep.
that we clean. And when school's around, we've got to get in there fast and take care of them so they can start their semesters.
Are most of the jobs that you're undertaking day-long project, week-long, or do any go on for months? I mean, how serious are the operations typically?
I would say for us, the longest we've ever spent was about 1 to 3 days, and
Okay.
normally we're staying
Even
the night somewhere.
even the university jobs where you're, maybe cleaning multiple buildings in all the grime, all the grit, still just 1 to 3 days.
Right, 1 to 3 days, and I've maximized it to where you have to be efficient and effective at the same time, right?
Yep.
Obviously, operating cost plays into effect. Timing is a huge factor, and so what I've come up with is just being able to really time things precisely. Obviously, I've given some wiggle room, but I would probably give it about 3 days. We can probably knock out in our town, or we clean Texas State, right, and San Marcos, and so they have quite a bit of buildings, and we can normally knock that out in about, with all buildings, about 3 days, four tops, just depending on weather, right? That plays into it, but we haven't had any rain, so it's been pretty dry. It's been pretty hot.
How'd you get all these jobs? Let's take Texas State. Who's reaching out? How do they get on the schedule?
Yeah, so Texas State has been a long-term customer, and I got to give credit to where it's due, and that was all Mike back then, and he's kept a good relationship with the current point of contact, and what it comes down to in order just to keep contracts like that is people relations, right? Just like once you know somebody and you know what they're capable of, whether it's a company or a person, you want to keep them around because you know them and they know you, and you know the type of work. And so we've just been able to provide that service over years, and I believe Texas State is probably one of the longest contracts we have, which is right over 20 years. We've had that contract.
Wow. What about other jobs? Is it through the website? Is it Google Business Profile? What are the ways in which customers find you?
So we've had at least a good 20% come through the website. A lot of them are residential, but we also have we've done a lot of Google stuff, right, over the years to try to put us at the top when you Google vent hood or exhaust fan, right, to where it puts us at the top. And that's kind of my goal with Topline, is to be able to just boost our scene on the web, right, with Google, with Facebook. My next kind of project is going to be TikTok, right, and kind of putting these vent hoods and what we do just for people to see. I mean, it's not I tell everybody, it's not your TikTok power washing where you just sit behind we call it a lawnmower, or you're just spraying left and right. This is actually some greasy stuff, and kind of the tools that we use that makes it really interesting. So that's one of my next projects. And not gonna lie, but one of the other ways that I get a lot of these jobs is I go eat at their restaurant. That's probably why I gained like a good 40 pounds, but I'll go to the restaurant, man, and I'll eat and I'll just go ask for the general manager and just talk to him and literally say exactly what I've told you. And they get to see a face. They know that I come in and I've dined and I've given them some feedback. And if I could at least give them an estimate and we can build that relationship and they know they can depend on me.
Are some of these jobs, is it usually the restaurant? Let's say that a restaurant happens to reach out. You didn't go dine in. Restaurant reaches out once the kitchen clean. Is it the case that they want to clean up their kitchen, or is the government telling them that in order to continue to be able to serve food, they're going to need to clean up the kitchen? What tends to be the impetus for the job?
So I would probably say it's as far as the government or other entities, as far as city,
Sure.
city municipalities, anything like that. That's probably a good 20 to 30% of, hey, we're going to come in and you need to have a hood sticker that shows that you're up to date and certified. And when
Right.
that is a certificate of cleanliness that we offer our clients. And so the other part of it is they've had someone and they're not doing as good as a job. And I don't want to, and I'm not here barking on any other company out there that's doing it, but there are some one man shows, and some of these restaurants understand that they're one man shows, but they need a little more. They need a little more from that company, and sometimes those companies just aren't big enough yet. And so they'll call me and they'll do that Google search, or they'll call another restaurant and they'll say, "Hey man, who do you use?" And then our name comes up, right? And they Google us and they see our pictures that Top Line Pro will put out there, our videos, and see what we do. And that actually helps me, right? Like, hey, you can see what we do now, right? And there's the videos, or there's what's really cool, the whatever it is, the before and after. That's really neat that the young guys come up with. So yeah, man, I would say that a lot of it is they want somebody else, right? Or some other company just is not doing it anymore for
Hmm.
them.
What's
Actually,
your
I got two the other day for just exactly like that.
two jobs in the last week where the former
Mhm.
there just wasn't doing it? Wow.
Yeah.
What's your goal in 5 years or in 10 years, Rick?
All right, man. So I'm glad you said that.
We can
Actually,
start with 1 year. What's the goal in 1 year?
so by next year, my goal is to hit 1 million, right? That in revenue. That's my goal. In the next 2 years following that, I want to basically have a turnkey operation. That's my goal. And then I want to branch out to other businesses that are similar to what we do.
Okay.
I've looked into the fire suspension systems, the ANSEL systems, right? I mean, we're already there. Why not already take care of it? I'm not trying to create a huge one-stop shop, but that's kind of what I want to get into. Is here are a couple other companies that are associated that we can take care of your kitchen fully, right? Instead of having a list of people, and we can do it all in-house, from repairs to your ANSEL systems to your kitchen ventilator systems. We also came up with a filter exchange program so that kitchens don't have to clean their filters. We're able to lease them to different sets and change them out once a month. And so it's a lot less grease going down your pipes, and you're not spending that payroll and having them clean them. And we come and do it once a month.
Let's say you are
Um,
go. I'm sorry. Go
No,
on.
I was going to say, and so my goal after that, once I've cultivated the company and moved on, I want to get back. I want to get into realty, real estate. That's something that's kind of been on my mind. But this is exactly where God wanted me to be, and I have faith that He's going to direct me wherever He wants me to go. So I'm here, and I'm doing my best.
Wonderful. Let's say you are able to branch out into other services in the coming years. What sort of training would be necessary in order to do that at the highest level? Are there additional certifications or permits you'd have to go out and get? What's that process like?
No, yeah, definitely. just for the fire safety, I mean, obviously you don't have to go through the fire, firefighter academy, but they have a separate test and certification for fire safety in the Ansel system, and learning that. That's something that I'm slowly kind of learning what that process is, because that's kind of my next step into learning something like that, uh, along with repair. The fan repair, exhaust fan repair, from motors to bearings to electrical.
Mm.
There's a couple good schools out there that teach that, and so I want to send my guys out there just to learn it. So we can be better for the customer.
How long are those courses typically? A few months? Years?
They are most of them are actually not as long as you would think.
Okay.
They are a couple months. The fire safety, I believe it's a couple months. I could be wrong, but the fan repair is probably about a week or less, just depending on who's actually doing those courses.
And the additional cost, is it, do you have any sense whether it's, hundreds, thousands? I imagine it would be worth it if you do decide to invest the money and get your guys up to speed in that, but just curious what that costs you.
I don't have any hard numbers per se, but I know that the cost would probably be about 25% of probably what could be my revenue to really get things going.
Oh, wow.
And that's his ballpark, and that's meaning from getting, trucks certified, marketing, just building it basically from the ground up.
Final question before the rapid fire round. Curious what you did with your online presence before you had a website, and why you decided to get one.
You ever heard Yellow Pages?
That was before my time, Rick.
Yeah, hey man, man, it's funny. My wife tells
heard
me
of
that
it.
all the time. She's like, "Oh, that's before my time." Yeah,
I've heard
I'm
of it.
old. So yeah, what we did, man, it was before the online presence. It was just Yellow Pages. It was just doing one restaurant, and they were talking to somebody else. It was even in our local newspaper, that we would have our information out there. It was pretty minimal, to be honest. I mean, there wasn't really much that we were doing at the time before we really pushed online. And that's what really kind of helped us to the next step.
It's at Titan Talks. We like to close with a rapid fire round. Are you ready?
Yeah, it it reminds me of I was thinking of, when you say rapid fire, it reminds me of Step Brothers when they're being interviewed. They're doing the interview session. But anyways, go ahead, sir.
What's the biggest mistake you've made at the helm of Centex, and what did you learn as a result?
The biggest mistake I've made, man, I missed payroll. To be honest, I missed payroll one day because I got too busy, and I know what that did to the people and the culture, and I knew that I put myself in their shoes, and I made it right, but it was totally on me, and I owned up to it. And so I'd probably say that was probably one of my biggest admin, fails, was that I had missed payroll when I was supposed to do it. Got it corrected, but it was definitely made me humble to be like, hey, these people are depending on you, and you failed them, I don't know, but it got corrected. So I would probably say that was probably one of them that I've learned.
Sure.
For sure.
You mentioned the organizational challenges around scheduling. Other than that, what's the greatest challenge, the hardest thing that you're facing right now?
The hardest thing that I think I'm facing right now is, I want to say growth, because I don't want to grow too fast and too big, right? Because I want to make sure I have enough people. And I think sometimes that is one of the things that I'm afraid of is to grow too fast, too quick,
Yep.
and I don't have enough people. So that's the first thing that comes to mind.
What's the most surprising thing been since you took over Centex?
Well, on a job, I had never seen this before, but we were putting in an access panel into this restaurant, and I literally saw this much of grease. Now, I'm gonna tell you, like this was it was a duck, but it had this much grease all the way around. So when you look through it, there was a hole about this big, but everything else was grease, and it looked like greasicles. And I was just amazed. And I asked, "Hey, when was the last time this was clean?" They were like, "Oh, it might have been over 40 years ago, just that portion of it." And I was just like, this is something that I have to put on the website. This is something that you don't see every day. So yeah, I was in all my years since '03, to that day, I had never seen anything like that before. It was kind of like, you know, a relic, who knows what was in there. I mean, I think we found like just crusty things, and it was, we were just scraping, man, just getting dirty. And it was just amazing just to see how thick it was. And I mean, it almost looked like a big old brisket slab, right? If we're thinking about if we're thinking about food, man, it looked like a brisket slab, but you couldn't squeeze it and see the juice. It was hard, man. So that's probably one of the shocking things that I've seen they're doing with the business.
For those who are listening rather than watching on YouTube, I think you just described 6 to 8 inches of grease with dendrites and icicles. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Greasicles.
Excuse me. Greasicles. That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Very colorful. To close, Rick, number of pros listening to this who are just starting out, thinking of starting their own business, thinking of getting going in the home services. What advice would you offer to them?
And have faith, never give up. Whether you walk into a shop or you walk into your garage or wherever your business is at, just look at something and ask yourself, what can I do today to make it better tomorrow? Just don't overwhelm yourself. Just know that you can, it's like what I tell my guys in cleaning. There might be a fan that's really nasty, but if you take a section at a time, you'll get there. So instead of climbing that, you have that ladder, instead of jumping 3 spots, most of the time when people do that, they slip back down. But if you take it one step at a time, you'll finally get to the top. So stay encouraged. Yeah, that's it.
Yep. Rick, thank you so much for coming on Titan Talks. It was outstanding to meet you and to hear your story. We wish you all the luck in the world. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.